Today we're looking at reality bending TikToks you will think about all day.
There are literally companies right now that are working on an AI app that uses AI to translate what your cat and dog is saying to you. Okay. So they're saying that AI tools are now being developed to interpret the sounds of cats and dogs with the goal of translating meows and barks into clear, human understandable messages for worldwide users. Scientists have just managed to go 1 second back in time using a quantum computer.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you to all the channel members for support. It says around 70% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to smash that subscribe button and like the video. Let's go.
Did you know there was a guy who hacked into NASA and found proof we're not alone? His name was Gary McKinnon. He didn't work for NASA. He wasn't in the military. He was just some guy from England in his bedroom, smoking pot on a dial-up connection. And in 2001, he broke into the most secure military networks on Earth, NASA, the US Space Command. No backdoor, no exploit, just a broken Windows terminal with no firewall. And what he found? A folder labeled non-terrestrial officers with names, ranks, transfer logs, and ship-to-ship assignments. But these weren't naval ships. They weren't on Earth, and they weren't even in the atmosphere. Then he opened the image, a raw satellite photo, uncompressed, still loading line by line. At first, stars, then Earth, then a massive cigar-shaped craft hovering above the planet. No panels, no seams, no heat signature, just a smooth metallic object floating silently. He tried to save it, but before he could, his screen froze. The connection died, and in that moment, he knew they saw him. 2 years later, he was arrested. No weapons, no stolen data, no money taken. Just one thing. He saw something they didn't want anyone to see. The US tried to extradite him, said he caused $700,000 in damage, called him the biggest military hacker in history. He faced 70 years in prison. But even with everything on the line, he never changed his story. He said they're hiding reverse-engineered alien machines. And the one thing they deny most, proof we're not alone.
Let's talk about the shrimp living in New York City's tap water. A type of plankton resembling tiny shrimp. They're called copepods, and they've been swimming in New York City tap water for years. 2 to 3 in each cup you drink. There's a benefit to having the little guys around. Feeding on larvae, they prevent mosquito infestations among other diseases. So you might be thinking, doesn't the city filter its water supply? Not filtering the water is actually a point of pride for many New Yorkers. But it's not without controversy. Many kosher households install filters to remove the tiny residents because for the hundreds of thousands of Orthodox Jews, they're not supposed to have crustaceans. But before you get grossed out, experts confirm they pose no risk to human health, and many consider New York City tap water to be some of the best in the world for culinary purposes. When you take a sip, you can appreciate the quirky nature of the Big Apple and its trillions of microscopic characters. Just another reason New York is truly a one-of-a-kind city.
He said, before you get terrified, just know that these microscopic shrimps are not unhealthy for you. I'm like, dude, that doesn't stop the fact that I still think it's absolutely disgusting.
Watch what this bear does fresh out of hibernation.
How's it going? Are you a brown bear, huh? You're looking pretty brown. YOLO? You don't even care, huh? Really? Holy shnikes. No thank you. What can I do for you? Wow.
Bears hibernation is one of the most interesting things that happen in the wild because these bears can go 100 days or sometimes more than 100 days without eating, without drinking, without going to the bathroom. Their bodies just go into this regulation mode where it reuses the waste. So it's kind of like a cruise control for their body. And the fact that bears can just literally almost sleep for 100 days and nothing really changes on them kind of blows my mind. Something that's interesting about hibernation is when bears emerge out of it, whether it's 80 days, whether it's 100 days, research has shown that when bears come out of that, yes, they lose like the fat around their muscle, but they don't lose much muscle mass, which is pretty interesting. Also, cubs are born during hibernation a lot of the time. So while these mothers are in their dens going through this hibernation phase, they will still have cubs. So I just think hibernation is crazy interesting. If you know anything about hibernation that I might not have covered here, drop it in the comments.
Did you know a nurse injected herself with blood from dead patients for 8 months, believing it would make her immortal? Nancy Rodriguez was a 12-year veteran ICU nurse at Mercy Hospital, known for her exceptional care and stable mind. But in 2023, after witnessing too many deaths, something inside her snapped. She became obsessed with the idea that death held secrets, that life essence could be transferred. During night shifts, she began sneaking into the morgue, drawing blood from fresh corpses. She kept detailed journals, recording every injection, every sensation, every change she imagined in her body. Her colleagues noticed her pale skin and strange energy, but nobody suspected the truth. Security footage later revealed her midnight visits to the morgue. For months, she collected blood from 23 different bodies, labeling each vial carefully. Her final injection came from a patient who died of a rare blood disease. They found her in the supply closet, her body convulsing as incompatible blood types destroyed her from within. Her collection of labeled vials told the horrifying story.
Here's one thing I don't do as a neurologist, and that is ignoring neurological symptoms after a cat scratch. I once saw a teenage patient who developed sudden confusion, severe headaches, and trouble walking. Her parents noticed she'd been unusually tired and clumsy over the few days before they brought her to the hospital, which worsened until she could barely stand. During her exam, we also noticed a decrease in her vision in one eye. Further testing showed that there was inflammation of the optic nerve and the retina, which explained her vision loss. Usual suspects like stroke, meningitis, and autoimmune disease were ruled out. It wasn't until we noticed a few scratches on her arm that we asked about any recent injuries or exposures, and that's when her mother mentioned they had recently adopted a kitten. This detail was key because this led to further tests which confirmed Bartonella Hensleyi infection, which is the bacteria that causes cat scratch disease. Now, most people with this infection experience mild symptoms like swollen lymph nodes, fever, and fatigue, but in rare cases, this condition can affect the nervous system and the eyes. Fortunately, with antibiotics and supportive care, her neurological symptoms and vision gradually improved. This case is a reminder that even something as seemingly harmless as a playful scratch can in rare cases lead to serious.
I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency. Recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health.
It appears President Trump is about to kick the bucket. I'm talking about one final permanent beep from his heart rate monitor, as health experts across the world are raising genuine concern over the president's health after multiple different events in recent memory have painted a different picture of the president's health than this administration is letting on. From Trump's meeting with the World Cup president, where he spent most of the time making sure to cover up his hand, to cover up all the foundation on his hand, meant to cover up all the bruising from the IV drips he's been getting, and not all the handshakes he gives out like Carolyn Levitt likes to tell. From when he was in Alaska, where it seemed like he was a bowling ball going down a lane with bumpers up as he was just going boing, 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 trying to walk down that red carpet, unable to walk even the semblance of a straight line, most likely because his cankles continue to swell up like grapefruits because he's unable to get blood flow from his legs back up to what people call a heart. And that's also why they've been hiding him behind the Resolute desk more often during press conferences so that people can't snap photos of his feet. But almost the most telling sign is Trump hasn't been golfing in 13 days, which is highly unusual for him. He's one day away from breaking his all-time record of time spent not golfing while president.
A man suddenly received a shocking confession from his best buddy. As a straight guy, he rejected him right away. But the friend didn't give up. That very night, he broke into the man's house. After exhausting him unconscious, he carried him straight to the hospital, where he had already arranged a secret surgery. Only when he saw the man being wheeled into the operating room did the friend finally leave with relief. The next day, the man slowly woke up. As he tried to sit up, a sharp pain shot through his lower body. Confused, he pulled back the blanket, and right then his best buddy walked in, holding flowers, dropping to one knee. I've already hired a lawyer. From now on, you have no choice but to be with me.
Dude, that's gotta be the most insane story I've ever heard in like the last year. Like this whole year, that's probably the most insane story I've ever heard.
Yeah, this wasn't a PR stunt. Oh my God. Lil Nas X is now facing years, yes, years in prison, as he's been charged with 4 different felonies for his little stunt in Los Angeles at 4 a.m. about a week ago, a little less than a week ago, where he was running around naked and in his underwear, seemingly on drugs. He was reported for an overdose as well. I think he's okay though. 1 or 2 of the felonies are for battery with injury on a police officer, which that's not good. That is really bad. Battery on a police officer is bad, but battery with injury? That means he injured the cop. Now, we don't have the, body cam footage or anything like that right now to examine specifically what happened and, give our own opinions and thoughts on it. But right now, just looking at the felony charges and what's been written out for him, this is not good. A lot of people thought this potentially could be a PR stunt at first, but now, clear as day, right? Definitely not a PR stunt. We will continue to update you guys on this as soon as we get more information, or as soon as I get more information, but this is not good.
Hey, Lil Nas, how are you doing? How are you holding up?
That's crazy. There was literally a video of him walking around LA like naked at 4 a.m. in the morning. Isn't that crazy? Apparently he OD'd. At first I thought it was a stunt. I kind of still think it is a stunt. According to like a lot of these people, they're like, no, it's not a stunt. He might actually serve prison time. So I'm like, hey dude, whatever you're going through, you need to figure it out.
We have some crazy things going on in the world right now. Russia is cutting electricity and internet after 10 p.m. in order to boost their birth rates. A 23-year-old is preparing to become the first human on Mars, and she's never going to return to Earth. In China, people are paying $4 a day to pretend they have jobs. Some are renting fake offices, some are posing as CEOs, all just to hide their unemployment from their families. Denmark has officially raised its retirement age to 70, which is the highest in Europe. Nancy Pelosi is now worth $264 million while serving 38 years in Congress with an annual salary of $223,000. A former Doge engineer says that federal waste and fraud were relatively non-existent. China is digging the deepest hole on planet Earth. Tesla's new Cyber Quad is a $1,650 quad bike for kids. A billionaire passed away after swallowing a bee at a polo match. A woman discovered that her husband thought White Claws were energy drinks, and he's been drinking one on the way to work every single day, meaning he's been pre-gaming his 9 to 5.
So this cruise ship wrecks, and the captain abandons it, and he leaves about 4,000 people there to die. Now, the captain's name is Francesco, and Francesco is 51 years old, living in Italy, and dude is the captain of this big-ass cruise ship that operates off the coast of Italy called the Costa Concordia. And one night in 2012, Francesco is piloting this boat with over 4,000 passengers and crew on board. And that is when he gets this idea that's gonna change his life forever. He decides he's gonna perform a sail-by salute. And that is when ships will sail really close to land, and sometimes they'll blow the horn. It's called a sail-by salute. And this will give everyone on the boat a cool view of the island they're passing, and I guess he's just trying to show off. And since he thinks this is gonna be impressive, he invites a woman up to the bridge of the ship to watch the whole thing. But not just any woman, it's this woman, who we'll call Mistress, because she just happens to be Francesco's mistress, who is half his age. And this is an actual picture of her, just straight up looking like a mistress. And Francesco's married, by the way. So of course he's smashing with this much younger woman on the side. And because they're smashing, she's on this cruise for free. So she's humping the captain, so there is no charge for the buffet or whatever. Anyway, so Francesco wants to get the ship close to this island so that he can show off, and he decides he wants to do this sail-by salute manually, which he doesn't have to do it manually. Cruise ships are very technologically advanced, but I guess using that technology doesn't make him look very badass in front of his mistress. So he turns off the alarm for the computer navigation system. And under normal circumstances, this alarm would warn him if he were to get too close to shore or whatever. But I guess Francesco doesn't really care. So there he is on the bridge of the ship, chatting up his mistress, trying to flex and explain to her how incredible it is that he's steering the boat manually instead of using the navigation system, and he's the only one who's a good enough captain to be able to do such a thing because he knows the area super well and everything's definitely gonna be okay and the boat is totally not gonna crash. Until Francesco really screws up. He forgot his reading glasses, so I guess he can't really see what any of his instruments are saying. And I don't know if it's like too late to run and get them, or he just doesn't want to be seen in them, but he doesn't go and get them, and I guess he's also distracted by looking at his mistress, who is looking all fine, I guess. So he just keeps asking the first officer to check the radar to make sure the ship is good. So pretty quickly, they're in the middle of this sail-by salute, and they're moving close to the island, and suddenly, boom, he sees waves breaking on the rocks, and he's like, Mamma mia, because he realizes that he has misjudged the distance. He's not supposed to be this close to the rocks. So he tries to steer and swing the ship to the side to avoid it. But unfortunately, it's too late. And kapow! He scrapes the hull of the ship across the rocks, and this rips a massive 164-foot hole in it. And down below, the head of the engine room calls up and he's like, yeah, we got a problem down here. There's a big ass gash in the side of the ship. And water is just pouring in, and it has submerged the generators and the engines. And now there's no propulsion and no backup electric power, and some of the instruments are failing. And so then, boom, the power goes out. So now all the passengers are suddenly sitting in darkness. And to make it worse, all this water coming in shifts the weight of the ship and makes the whole thing start tilting to one side. And of course the passengers are panicking at this point because most of the power is out and the boat is leaning, and they're like, what the hell is happening here? And so the ship is slowly sinking to its side, and it eventually comes to rest in more shallow waters as it runs up on the ground. But water is still rushing in. So Francesco immediately starts freaking out because he knows he really screwed up. He tells one of the crew just to let the Coast Guard know that they only experienced a little blackout and that they don't really need assistance. This is no big deal. And they also make an announcement to the passengers telling them not to panic and that everything is fine. However, obviously everything is not fine. And about an hour goes by, and some of the passengers finally report the wreck to Port Authority. And a little bit after that, Francesco gives the passengers and crew the order to evacuate. So basically, the passengers are ordered to put on their life vests and head toward the lifeboats, but to be calm about it. However, as time goes on, the ship keeps tilting more and more, and that makes it hard to launch the lifeboats. And you can actually see the ship tilting here. And now eventually the whole boat tilts over on its side. Now this is an actual photo of it taken the next day at daylight. And here's another picture, and here's another one. I mean, look at that. That looks insane. Now at this point in the story, people are still evacuating, and it's all chaos. I mean, there are over 4,000 passengers and crew on this thing, so this is not a fast process. And a good ship captain would be leading this effort to get his passengers to safety, and he would be on the ship until everything was handled. Because, you know, like a good captain goes down with his ship. I believe that's the saying. Here's the thing, though. Francesco is just not that guy, and he takes a very different approach. He's like, F all this, and he gets in a lifeboat, and he is sailing away to safety toward the harbor. Now, somehow, the Coast Guard gets in touch with him, I guess by radio, and the Coast Guard is pissed. They're like, where the hell are you? And Francesco tells them that he had accidentally left his ship because he, and I'm not making this up, fell into a lifeboat. And that lifeboat made its way to the harbor where he is now safe. And the Coast Guard is like, you're the fucking captain! Get the hell back on your ship! Help people evacuate! Because, like, this is a serious matter. The ship is on its side. They need to know how many people are still on board. If those people need help, what kind of help do they need? Are people dead? Like, these are things a captain is supposed to know. And so Francesco tells them that he's trying to get back on the ship, but in fact, he is not. Not only did he make it to land at this point, but he was actually one of the first people to make it to land, beating all the other passengers. He's like, oh, f*** all this, I'm getting out of here. And he beat everyone there. And so anyway, a police officer sees Francesco and he runs up to him and he offers to get him a small boat to return to the ship to help the passengers evacuate. And Francesco is like, nah, I'm good. Meanwhile, there are people from the island, like actual pedestrians, sailing out there in whatever vessels they own to try and help the passengers off this boat. And between that and the Coast Guard sending ships and helicopters, they are ultimately able to help most of the people evacuate safely. But unfortunately, some people do drown, some people get injured from the ship tilting, and some people get trapped. And in total, 32 people don't make it. And so the next day, bam, Captain Francesco is arrested. And I don't have a mugshot, but here's a real life picture of him. And he eventually goes to trial, and he's found guilty of manslaughter, causing a shipwreck, and abandoning a vessel. I didn't even know that was illegal, but he gets sentenced to 16 years in prison.
I don't want to be that guy, but that's literally D1 proof that women are the downfall of men. It's over. I said it. Nah, I'm joking, but like that captain is so stupid, dude. And it's crazy because I see this video a couple months before I'm about to go on a cruise. Now it's like, do I even really want to go on a cruise?
Did you know your brain can literally become addicted to people who hurt you? It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it creates stronger neural pathways than healthy relationships. When someone treats you badly, then suddenly shows kindness, your brain releases more dopamine than consistent love ever could. The unpredictable rewards trigger the same chemical response as gambling or drugs. Your amygdala hijacks rational thinking during these cycles, making you crave the chaos despite knowing it's harmful. The trauma bond becomes so powerful that victims often return to their abusers repeatedly. Our survival instincts misinterpret this unpredictability as passion and excitement. What feels like intense love is actually your brain trapped in an addiction cycle.
Sounds like all of my exes.
Bob Marley didn't die from cancer. He was infected on purpose. In 1976, Bob Marley survived an assassination attempt. 2 days later, he still got on stage singing about peace. But not everyone wanted peace. He was more than a musician. He was a movement, and movements scare governments. In 1977, a strange man gifted Marley a pair of boots. When Bob tried them on, he screamed. Inside was a copper wire hidden like a trap. Soon after, doctors found a rare cancer under his toenail. Aggressive, fast, spreading. CIA documents later revealed Operation Chaos, a secret plan to disrupt black political leaders worldwide. Marley, with his influence, his defiance, his voice was a threat. His health declined rapidly. In just a few years, his body shut down. He died at 36. But some insiders believe that wire in the boot wasn't random. It was a delivery system, poisoned, designed to infect, silent, undetectable. Bob never stopped singing, but his voice faded right when the world needed it most. They didn't just want to kill the man, they wanted to silence the message. But Bob Marley became immortal, and his revolution still echoes.
Yeah, I've heard about that because, you know what I'm saying, I'm Jamaican, so like, it's obviously history for us. I'm playing, but yeah. I feel like it was more the fact that yes, there was a wire in the boot, and like that probably might have given him the cancer, but it also was more so the fact that he didn't want to seek treatment. Like they were telling him, yo, get treated, cut the toe off, like take medication, and he didn't want to do it because he believed that whatever happened, it was God's, you know what I'm saying, because of his religion. So I feel like his death could have been prevented, but he kind of delayed the process until it started to spread all over his body.
Okay, guys, people are absolutely furious right now because, okay, so a few hours ago, Israel bombed a hospital in Gaza. And when the first responders arrived, including journalists, ambulance crews, etc., Israel bombed this hospital for a second time. And This was all captured on live TV. At least 20 people were killed in this double hit, including 5 journalists who worked for international media, including Reuters, AP, Al Jazeera, and also other people killed included health workers and emergency response crews. Now, the first strike hit a balcony that was reportedly used by reporters to have an elevated view, and then the second attack, which was just minutes later, hit ambulance crews and emergency responders. Israel have said in response to all of this, they do not target journalists and they regret any harm to uninvolved individuals.
Since all taste buds can detect the 5 basic tastes, coffee doesn't stunt your growth. Reading in dim light doesn't cause permanent eye damage. It can only cause eye strain. Houseflies don't have a lifespan of 24 hours. They usually live for about 20 to 30 days. There is no historical evidence to support the claim that Vikings drank from the skulls of their enemies. The Earth's core is not molten lava. It's liquid metal, mostly iron and nickel. But the inner core is solid metal. Mount Everest isn't the closest point to space. Due to the equatorial bulge, the summit of Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador is the farthest point from the Earth's center, and thus closer to space than Mount Everest. Houseplants don't increase indoor oxygen levels significantly. They increase it in really small amounts, which does not really make a difference. Dogs' mouths aren't cleaner than humans' mouths. They both contain a large amount of bacteria, and neither is necessarily cleaner than the other. The brand name Adidas is derived from the name of its founder, Adolf "Adi" Dassler, not from All Day I Dream About Sports. Microwaves don't cause cancer, since they use non-ionizing radiation, which does not have enough energy to remove tightly bound electrons or cause cancer. Listening to classical music doesn't make you smarter. The Mozart effect suggests that listening to Mozart may temporarily enhance spatial temporal reasoning, but it doesn't increase overall intelligence or long-term cognitive abilities. There is no historical evidence pinpointing December 25th as Jesus' exact birth date. This date was chosen by early Christians to coincide with existing pagan festivals. The sun isn't yellow, it emits white light, which appears yellow from Earth due to atmospheric scattering. Wolves don't howl at the moon, they howl to communicate with their pack. The association with the moon is likely due to wolves being more active and howling more during the night. Frogs don't remain in gradually heating water, they jump out. If they are placed in already boiling water, they immediately die. Mice aren't especially attracted to cheese over other foods. Rubbing urine on jellyfish hit spots doesn't relieve.
This is everything that just happened on the news today, but I'm gonna simplify it for you in 60 seconds. The president just signed an executive order that says if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. So he signed this executive order that directs the Department of Justice to pursue 1 year in jail for those who burn American flags. There are literally companies right now that are working on an AI app that uses AI to translate what your cat and dog is saying to you. Okay. So they're saying that AI tools are now being developed to interpret the sounds of cats and dogs with the goal of translating meows and barks into clear, human understandable messages for worldwide users. Scientists have just managed to go 1 second back in time using a quantum computer. I'm gonna spare you all of the boring details. They said that this doesn't mean that time travel is gonna be available for humans yet, but it proves that the laws of physics can be manipulated at the quantum level. Whoa. These Chinese scientists are now developing a world's first pregnancy robot. They're saying that anybody that's struggling to conceive, you can hire a humanoid that will cost you about $14,000 and they will carry your baby for you. A literal AI robot. Dude, this is actually real right now. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
The title of this video is definitely not clickbait because I'm going to be thinking about that all day. What do they mean by we can go 1 second behind in time via quantum computing? That proves so much now, because if we can do 1 second, you know how humans are, we gradually elevate. Eventually we're going to be able to do years. That actually makes you rethink a lot of different things, really think about it. And the fact that we can now potentially with AI understand what dogs and cats are trying to say to us, that's a game changer, bro.
There is a trend going apparently in Asia where if people say the right words and do the right hand movements, they immediately summon a bolt of lightning. Let's watch an example, a demonstration.
风、火、雷、电、破。
So y'all remember how a few years ago everyone was losing their minds after they found out that like 30 to 50% of the population doesn't have an internal monologue and they started calling them NPCs? I can do you one better. I have something called aphantasia, which basically means that I can't visualize anything in my mind. And here's what that looks like. There's a continuum of, going from being able to see a full-blown apple to nothing. And that's me. So I went my entire life up until about 30 when I found out you motherfuckers can actually see shit in your head. Like the whole time, whenever someone was like, go visualize an apple, I just assumed it was a figure of speech. Like I was watching Family Guy and I'd see the little thought bubble over his head and like they were doing whatever. And I was like, oh, that's the artistic way to explain, a thought process. Oh, God. Yeah, so that's fucking cool. I guess you might have a few questions. How do I find things in my office or remember things in my car? I don't really know how to explain that to you. It's like associative or fact-based. Like I know I put things in a certain place. I know what things look like, but I just can't quite picture them per se. I could still dream. I see fine in my dreams. Everything is perfectly fine there, but for whatever reason, my visual components are just not fully there. I can draw, I can make art, but it does make it harder, I'm not gonna lie, because a lot of times I need to look at reference images and other things. But yeah, so in case you were wondering, there's, on top of people that don't have an internal monologue, there's also people out there that they don't see anything in their heads when they're thinking about it. It's weird, right?
Yo, is there anyone else watching this video that literally cannot see anything inside their heads? If you're one of those people, let me know down in the comments.
What the hell did we just watch? Raja Jackson, the 25-year-old son of UFC champion Rampage Jackson, just put a wrestler in the hospital after entering the ring, slamming him on the mat, knocking him unconscious, and then proceeding to punch him in the face over 20 times while he laid there motionless. And the backstory as to why he did this doesn't make it better, it makes it worse. You see, Raja is a kick streamer and professional UFC fighter, and he was going to be part of a wrestling event on Saturday night in Los Angeles. Videos show Raja out back at the venue with a number of workers when he meets the wrestler that he was scheduled to enter the ring with. This is Stuart Steve. He's a US veteran who suffers from PTSD, and he started wrestling in 2009 so he could focus on something while trying to re-enter civilian life. Now, Raja and Stuart, they start to square up against each other when Stuart grabs a can and smashes it over Raja's head. Now, this caused the situation to get heated, and Raja says, I will F him up. He's held back by other wrestlers and told that Stu always thinks they're working and that he was trying to create a storyline for the match later. Now, videos later show that Stuart apologized to Raja, saying that he saw the camera and he thought he was a worker. And Raja and his cameraman, they seemingly accept the apology, with the cameraman saying multiple times, I get it now. Clearly, they did not. During Stu's match, Raja could be heard on the sidelines saying,
50 subs, knock him out.
After which he jumps in the ring, slams him, punches him multiple times, and half a dozen people enter the ring to try and restrain him, all of which was filmed live on Kick. Not to mention that there were kids in the crowd. Douglas Marlowe, one of the wrestlers who tried to stop Raja, said that Stuart had broken bones in his face and lost multiple teeth. Now, there's even more footage after the event showing Raja walking away, saying that he's tired of people playing with him, and then he gets a call from someone named Andre telling him that Stuart, the wrestler, flatlined in the ring, to which he responded saying,
my bad.
Now, his dad, Rampage Jackson, has since made a statement saying, I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raja. He then proceeded to say that Raja was unexpectedly hit on the side of the head moments before Smith's match. He failed to mention, however, that Stuart apologized, and the two made up not moments, but hours before the event took place. The company also made a statement saying that in the 17 years of pro wrestling, there has never been anything as heinous take place as this. Now, as for Stuart Smith, he is awake and stable, but in bad condition, and people close to him say that this is going to be a long road to recovery. Kick has since banned Raja's account, and some are calling for him to be arrested and charged with attempted murder, but also for Kick themselves to be held accountable for allowing the stream to go on as long as it did. But as we know more, I'll keep you guys updated.
Yo, I saw that video right as it happened, and I can gladly say that dude definitely deserves to serve some time in prison. You know, he was giving me vibes like those people that got CTE and just can't control their anger. It's like, dude, what he did wasn't that deep, and he told you that, like, he thought you guys were acting, and he apologized, and then he still went and did that. Yeah, It was very sad, dude.
Space isn't real, and the whole reason why NASA stopped studying the ocean is because they found the devil down there. This is something I've been avoiding for such a long time, but it has weighed on my shoulders to the point where I cannot keep my mouth shut anymore. There is no way that space is real. And everybody involved in NASA and space launches and stuff work for the... Now let me explain a little bit where this came from and how this all started for me, because I am somebody who doesn't want this to be true. I want space to be real. I don't want the Earth to be flat. But the firmament is a real thing. So the first time I lived in Florida, I was living on the Space Coast. For you guys who don't know, it's a spot in Florida where like NASA and SpaceX are, where they launch rockets. Well, I ended up meeting a dude that worked there and got really cool with him. So one day he asked me if I wanted to go watch one of the rockets launch. So of course I said yes. This is like a childhood dream. This is one of the coolest things ever. And what I saw changed me forever. That stupid rocket turned. Yes, I'm telling you guys, if you've ever watched a rocket launch, I promise you it doesn't go up. It goes up and then it turns. It does not leave the atmosphere. It just turns and goes a different direction. That's it. That's all they ever do. They never go straight out. And if you don't believe me, fly your ass to Space Coast and go watch one. And so after seeing that, my childhood dreams are crushed. I can't get this out of my head. I've never been able to get away from it. But then also looking more into it and seeing that NASA initially started in the ocean and they got away from it, it all started to make sense and everything started to come together.
I feel like you can apply as above, so below to the fact that there are denser oceans within our oceans. Like if you go into the ocean, there is another ocean on the floor of the ocean where it's so dense that we actually can't get through to that layer of water. So there's that dense layer where we can't even get through. Beings that probably are in there that are able to breathe that and be within those two separate places. And then there's the oceans where we have fish and they have gills and all of these other beings that can breathe through the water. We're not able to do that, but I feel like it's because it's lower. You know what I mean? But then I'm thinking like, is land technically just not a less dense version of the oceans? Like this is just less dense, but like this is technically like a type of water that we're breathing in a sense. And like we're just in our own ocean in a way. And then the reason why we're not able to breathe in space is because technically that would be like another ocean above. Like the same reason why fish aren't able to breathe on land would be the same reason why we're not able to breathe in space. Because it just keeps stacking on top of each other, like different layers of different oceans or different waters. Because fish are swimming in the sea and I don't think that they're aware that they're in water. Like I feel like they're just seeing normally within the water. And that would be us on land. Like we're seeing normally on the land. But if we jump into water, it looks a little blurred. It looks a little like there's water. You know what I mean? So if there were a higher dimensional being to come here and then look, would it seem to them like they were in water or something? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like it's different layers of denser waters to less dense waters just continuing forever. Like in layers. And that's part of what as above, so below means.
I definitely think that like space and the ocean are kind of similar in a way. That's exactly why, if you guys believe that NASA actually goes to space, that's exactly why NASA starts in the water with astronauts. They'll do like a lot of tests and stuff in the water and then they'll move them to space because it has that same kind of feel to it. But I don't even know, dude. There's so many people that be like, oh yeah, NASA never went to space. NASA isn't real. NASA this, that. I don't even know what to believe at this point, bro. At this point, I'm just going to believe whatever. whatever it is. But like, why would they fake it though? They're like a $1 billion company. Like billions of dollars of taxpayers' money go to like what? Them trying to portray some fake Hollywood scenes instead of actually going to space? That'd be crazy. We'd be going backwards instead of forwards with that one.
Thank you all for watching this here video.